Hello there, welcome to Mindfulness of Stress Week 2 with me, Laura Evans. Let's just have a quick recap of what we did last week in week 1. So last week we introduced, or last session, depending on when you're listening to this, we introduced the concept and the experience of mindfulness, starting to understand what mindfulness actually is. We explored autopilot and the possibility of increased choice in how we respond to life and how we get caught up in autopilot. We started to increase our awareness of our direct sensory experience, so our being aware of what we're experiencing in our senses in each moment, and we began to explore how that awareness can help us to reduce stress. And we also talked about primary and secondary experience and how we add layers on top of our primary experiences, and those layers come in the forms of thoughts and feelings and judgments. Okay, so we are going to start off this session by doing a body scan meditation. So this is going to be about 20 minutes, and this is going to be an extended version of the body awareness inquiry that we did in the first session, where we were being aware of sensations in a particular part of the body. So you need about 20 minutes to do this. So try and make sure that you're not going to, when you're doing this, you're not going to be disturbed. So you may want to pause this video if you're listening to this and you're not somewhere where you can have 20 minutes of sort of not being disturbed. It's usually done lying down, but it can be done sitting. So when you're lying down, lie on something that's comfortable but firm so that it really supports you. Now that can be a bed if it's quite firm, or it could be a thick mat on the floor maybe. So you want to take the time to get really comfortable. Okay, so put in a cushion or a pillow underneath your head so that your neck isn't tight or cramped, or if you have lower back problems, you might find it more comfortable to have a couple of cushions beneath your knees, or having your legs bent with the soles of your feet sort of placed on the ground, or you can have your legs outstretched. So your arms could either be lying down by your sides with the palms facing upwards or facing downwards, or you can rest your hands lightly on the belly, on the stomach. Now, what you usually find is your body temperature might drop as you lie or sit still during meditation practice. So it is quite important to make sure that you'll be warm enough. So sometimes many people like to cover themselves with like a light blanket, like a light fleecy little blanket, or just have one beside you just in case you need it. So first of all, making sure you've got everything that you need for you to be comfortable for 20 minutes. So you might want to pause this video and go and get everything that you need, pillows, blankets, or whatever it is, or adjust your posture. And then when you're ready, first of all, becoming aware of your body as a whole. So from the head to the toes. Feeling this weight against the mat or the floor or whatever surface that you're resting on. I'm going to guide this as if you are lying down, but if you are sitting, then just adjust my guidance to whatever your body posture is. So just getting a sense of the whole of your body, this weight, maybe the temperature, perhaps the space that your body takes up. And then becoming aware of the breath. So just feeling it entering and leaving the body. Feeling the chest and the stomach rising and then falling away as the breath comes in and then goes back out again. You might notice that other parts of the body are moving slightly with the breath. The back, the shoulders, maybe even the arms and the legs. And closing your eyes if you haven't already done so. Now, it's not an expectation that you have to close your eyes during meditation practice. So if that's not comfortable for you, just lowering your gaze and just choosing a point somewhere in front of you to focus your gaze on. Or if you're lying, maybe a point on the ceiling, you can just focus your gaze on. And then we're going to take our attention to each part of the body and just allowing our awareness to rest there for a little while. So let's take our attention up to the head. And just seeing, as you become aware of each area, just seeing if you can just accept whatever sensations are present. So we're not trying to looking to change anything, we're just noticing what it's like. So you might find that some parts feel relaxed and warm and comfortable, and others might feel tense, uncomfortable, or even painful. You might find other parts of the body feel quite numb. So the practice is just to feel whatever sensations are there, just as they are. And if the sensations are pleasant, just seeing if we can experience in them without trying to hold on to them. And if they're unpleasant, as best as you can, just allowing them to be there without trying to push them away, breathing into them and just softening around them. So our attention's in the head, so just noticing any sensations that are there. And then beginning to take your attention down through the face, past the eyes, the nose, coming aware of the ears, cheeks, and then resting your awareness along the jawbone. And just being curious about whatever sensations you notice there. And then taking your attention down past the throat, the neck, and then into the tops of the shoulders. What do you notice there? And then we're going to take our attention to the arms, so maybe noticing the shapes of the arms, the weight, the space that they take up. And then taking the attention down the arms, so into the upper arms, the elbows, forearms, and then resting your attention in your hands. And just being curious about whatever sensations that you notice there. Maybe what you notice is an absence of sensations, and that's okay too. So we're not trying to force yourself to notice anything. It's just an opportunity to be curious. So maybe being curious about the temperature of the skin on the backs of your hands, or the feel of the surface that your palms are resting on, or where the skin makes contact, maybe with the chair, the bed, the blanket. What does that feel like? What are the actual felt sensations? Remembering we're not trying to hold on to anything pleasant or to push away anything that's unpleasant either. You might notice that there are some neutral sensations. They're neither pleasant nor unpleasant, and that's okay too. So then taking your attention to the chest area, noticing what's present there. Dropping your attention down into the diaphragm. That's the large muscle just below the rib cage. Then down into the belly. And what do you notice there in the belly? What sensations are present there? And then taking your attention across to the hips. We're going to begin to go down the lower body. Noticing how the hips feel. Remember, we're not trying to change anything in any way. We're just noticing what's pleasant. And then taking the attention to the legs, noticing the large bones and the large muscles of the tops of the legs. Taking your attention into the knees. And then down into the lower legs. Taking your attention all the way down until your attention rests in the feet. So taking your attention to the tops of the feet to start off with, becoming curious about whatever you notice there. Perhaps the feel of your socks against your skin, or the blanket, or if you're barefoot, the feel of the air on your skin. Just being curious about what it actually feels like. Remembering not trying to hold on to anything pleasant or push away anything that feels unpleasant, or trying to change anything if it's just neutral. Taking your attention to your toes and maybe just noticing whether they're touching each other or do they feel quite sort of spread apart. Remember, there's no right or wrong. We're just noticing what it's like right now. And then taking your attention into the soles of the feet. Now, depending on what your posture is like, maybe your feet are flat against the floor, or it's just your heels touching the floor. So just noticing the points where your feet make contact with the floor. What does that feel like? And then we're going to begin to take your attention up the back of the body. So into the backs of the lower legs, into the back of the knees, the upper legs, becoming aware of the sitting bones or buttocks, and just noticing what's present there. Sometimes it's a place that we can hold tension, so just noticing what's there. Maybe noticing the points where it makes contact with the floor, whatever surface that you're resting on. Taking your attention now into the lower back. And just noticing any sensations there. Then beginning to take your attention up the back. Just becoming aware of the spine, the ribs, maybe the skin covering your back as you slowly start to take your attention up into the middle of the back. Remembering to notice what's present. Going all the way up into the upper back. And then resting your attention across your shoulders and just noticing what's present there in the shoulders right now. Change anything. We're just noticing what's present. Noticing if there's pleasant sensations. And if there are, not holding on to them. But just allowing yourself to notice what's next. If there's something uncomfortable, just seeing if you can breathe into them and just soften around them. Just allow them to be there. And if what you notice is neutral, not trying to force it to be one way or another. And then taking your attention into the back of the head, becoming aware of your scalp, the hair, and maybe noticing the points where your head makes contact with whatever surface that you're resting on. And now that we've moved through the whole of the body, we're just going to broaden out our awareness to include a sense of the whole body once again. Maybe noticing the space that the body takes up. Getting a general sense of how the body feels. Just a general sense of how the whole body feels rather than focusing in on any particular point. And then we're just going to sit or lie for a minute or two, doing nothing at all. Just allowing yourself just to be here. Just allowing your breath just to come all the way in and then all the way back out again. If you notice that your attention wanders, just gently bring your attention back to your body. Bring your awareness back. And maybe just focus either on your breathing or just another part of your body. So we're just going to sit here for a minute or two. You won't hear my voice for a minute or two, and then I'll start guiding you out to the meditation. And then bringing your attention back into the room. Maybe noticing what your breathing is like right now. Opening your eyes if that's comfortable for you or you're ready to do that. And if you are lying down, it's really important that you don't get up quickly. Just turn over onto one side first of all and just rest there for a few moments before pushing yourself up into a sitting position. And then when you get up, seeing if you can get up mindfully, being aware of your body, and just seeing then if you can take that awareness of being aware of what's going on in your body into the rest of your day. And then after each meditation, it's an opportunity then for a bit of reflection, a bit of inquiry. Now, if you had any discomfort or pain anywhere, then doing the body scan probably made you even more aware of it. And you might have wondered about the value of that. You know, why pay attention to pain and discomfort? How is that going to help? And I'm just going to ask you to hold that question for now. There is great value in it, which we will see a little bit further on during the course. And if you are willing to persevere, you'll begin to feel and understand that for yourself. Now, after each meditation, if you go back to the workbook, there is a sheet for you doing a little bit of reflection, and it's worth doing this because over time, then you will be able to see some patterns emerging and really getting to know yourself. So a bit of a reflection on the physical sensations you noticed, any feelings that came up for you, or any thoughts. So it is worth going away and doing that little bit of inquiry for yourself and making some notes on it. Okay, so we're going to have a look at week 2 now, and each week there will be an aim of each week and some key concepts that we're going to be looking at. And the aim of week 2 is to gain further experience of the helpfulness, being aware of our immediate sensory experience, so what's going on in this immediate present moment, and to understand the difference between the doing and the being modes of mind, which is a very important part of mindfulness. So the key concepts this week are the doing and the being modes, and also our perceptual and conceptual modes of mind as well. So let's dive in. So I'm going to ask you, you've got on your screen a line drawing, and I'm going to ask you to spend just a minute trying to figure out what's wrong with it. So just have a look at that picture and ask yourself what's wrong with this. Okay, so the chances are you noticed things like they're all wearing dark glasses, everybody caught up in busyness, nobody's sort of like looking at each other, those sorts of things. Now there's actually nothing wrong with the picture. So I'm just going to ask you to look at the picture again for another minute and just enjoy the skill of the artist. Just look at the actual skill of the artist in creating that picture. Okay, so I'd like to ask you to just have a little bit of a reflection on the difference in the two ways that you approached looking at that picture, and noticing how the way that you're looking at the picture now in comparison to the way that you looked at the picture in the beginning, and in which way did you actually enjoy looking at the picture most? So the first time you looked at the picture, you were in the doing mode of mind. You went straight into trying to solve a problem, trying to look at what was wrong with it. And when we look at what's wrong with something, we go into kind of a criticism and looking at all the negative things. And then the second time, I asked you to just be with the picture and just enjoy it. So that was you in the being. And like you just notice the difference in the enjoyment of those two ways of looking at it. So we're going to have a little look now at the doing and the being modes of mind. So it's a useful distinction that we make in mindfulness practice is between doing and being modes of mind. And the doing mode is the mindset that strives after goals. It's not satisfied with the way things are now, and it tries to improve on them. So it notices problems and tries to fix them. So therefore, the doing mode tends to be future orientated, working towards the goals that you've set, the improvements that it wants to make, and the problems that it tries to solve. And then the being mode is orientated to the present moment. When we're in the being mode, we experience the present moment directly in all of its fullness and richness and its imperfections as well, and we don't feel any great need to change it or to achieve anything. Instead, we're interested in it, we're curious about our experience. And generally speaking, most people spend a lot more time in the doing mode than they do in the being mode. And in mindfulness practice, we try to shift the balance towards spending your time in the being mode. And you might think that sounds very passive, that mindfulness involves just letting things be as they are, even if those things are unjust, substandard, or might cause suffering. But it is the being mode that leads to change, and often very profound and far-reaching changes, but it does it in a different way from the doing mode, and you'll discover for yourself how the being mode enables change as you work through the course. So what's the point between the difference in the two then is when we spend more time in the being mode, then that can help us to manage stress better. So we're going to do, we're going to have a little look at meditation postures now, and we're going to do another meditation, and then after we're going to do a little bit more on the being and doing mode as well. So meditation postures are very, very important, and the main criterion in finding a posture for meditation is that the posture enables that the body should be subjected to as little muscular strain as possible, and that it supports you, and it supports an alert but relaxed state of mind. So we're going to look at 3 different ways to sit for meditation. You can sit on a chair, and this is what I tend to do. I live with chronic pain, so I don't find it comfortable sitting on the floor. So for me, it's sitting on a chair is most comfortable. So it's worth playing around and taking some time to find what's best for you. And there is no right or wrong in posture. You know, typically when we think of meditation, we think of people sitting cross-legged, or some of the poses that are on the picture there, but it is finding what works for you, and as I said, there's no right or wrong. Now, it's best to sit in a chair that is straight back, so like a kitchen or a dining chair. If you sit in an armchair or on a couch, what will happen is your body will tend to slump, and then you're likely to feel sleepy. Your shoulders will tend to round inwards, and what that does then is it constricts the chest area, and that can bring about emotional dullness. An upright chair helps the spine to follow its natural curves, creating a sense of openness in the chest that encourages alertness and emotional brightness rather than this closing in on ourselves. Another way to maintain uprightness and avoid slumping is to rest your hands lightly in your lap. You might want to rest a cushion underneath them if you want to raise their height a little bit, and that allows the shoulders to stay open and broad as well, and they won't be drawn downwards or forced forwards by the weight of the hands as the meditation progresses. So it is finding, what was comfortable for you. So make sure that your feet are flat on the floor. Now, if your feet don't reach the ground, if you're a bit vertically challenged like I am, then placing a cushion or a pillow under them is quite comfortable. I do find that quite comfortable myself. So taking some time to really sort of find what works for you. And if you go to the workbook, there are some pictures in this that you can have a little look at as well. So another way is kneeling on the floor. For this posture, you'll need a couple of firm cushions to sit on, cushions that won't squash to almost nothing when you sit on them with your weight. If you don't have any firm cushions, you could take some books and place a cushion or two on top of them with your legs astride the cushions. Kneeling on the floor now is a bit harder on the knees and the ankles, so you'll just have to see what feels best for you. If you do kneel, it's important to find the right height. So if the cushions are too high, your pelvis will tend to tip forwards and that'll overarch the lower back. But if it's too low, your pelvis will tend to roll backwards and that'll round the back and the shoulders. So both of those extremes produce an unhelpful posture, and it might produce back pain, neck pain, and an overall sense of strain. So then we're going against the very thing that we're trying to achieve. So paying attention to the height of your seat is really important. If you get strain in your ankles when you kneel, you can try supporting them with some rolled up socks or something similar that takes the strain off the ankle joint. So play around with what you've got to hand and see if you can get really, really comfortable, okay? And then sitting cross-legged is the final option. So to do that comfortably, your hips need to be quite flexible. Now, my hips at the moment are very, very tight and not flexible, so this is something that I'm working towards. So sit on a firm cushion and let your knees touch the floor, allowing your weight to be held by the knees and the bottom. Now, can you do that comfortably? Now, if you can't, then sitting cross-legged is probably not for you. So don't force yourself to do something that isn't comfortable just because you think you should sit like that. So don't sit with your knees in the air, and definitely don't sit with your knees higher than your hips. It can be really difficult to keep a straight back in those cases, and you'll end up being slumped over really uncomfortably, okay? So as with the chair and the kneeling postures, try to sit with a straight back, and to do that you'll need to experiment with different sizes of cushions. So either support your hands in your lap or a small cushion on the tops of your thighs, trying to make sure that your chest is open and that your head is balanced nicely on your neck. So neither looking down nor up, so that your neck muscles have as little work to do as possible. Now, during meditation, you might feel that you need to alter your posture, and that's okay. Even if you are meditating in a room full with other people, it's always okay to move if you start to feel uncomfortable. It is really important that you pay attention to what your body is feeling and be self-compassionate. If you get uncomfortable, move in whatever way that is. If you're sitting and you need to stand up or you need to move around and adjust things, then that's okay. But if you do move, just try and include that in your meditation so that you're moving mindfully. You're still paying attention to what's going on in your body. Okay, so if you've got yourself ready and you're in a comfortable posture, now there are some videos that I will put some links in for you to have a look at some videos around postures as well, so that you can spend some time outside of these sessions really finding what works for you. Okay, so we're going to do a mindfulness of breathing meditation now. So meditation is a practice in being in the being mode. So we simply pay close attention to whatever our experience happens to be, not trying to get into any particular state or change whatever is happening. And in the mindfulness of breathing meditation, we pay attention to the sensations of the breath in the body. So we don't try to breathe in any particular way. We just feel and we observe the breath as it is in its natural state. Okay, so I'm going to guide this one as if you're sitting, but again, it is okay to do this lying, but I'm going to guide it as if you're sitting. So sitting in a comfortable and upright posture. An invitation to spend a little bit of time becoming aware of your body, the sensations of contact with the chair or the cushion and the floor, and just feeling that contact. Invitation to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Just getting a sense of the chair or the floor supporting your body weight. And on your next breath, just giving your weight up to gravity. Allowing the shoulders to drop a little further away from your ears. Just noticing if you can feel your clothes on your skin. The temperature of the air on your skin. And noticing all of your sensations, just allowing them just to be just as they are, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant or just somewhere in between, neutral. And then resting your awareness on the sensations of breathing. So your chest expanding and contracting as you breathe in. And then as you breathe out again. And noticing your belly swelling and subsiding on your in-breath and your out-breath. Swelling on the in-breath and subsiding on the out-breath. And if you notice that your mind has wandered, once you notice it, just bring it back to your breathing very gently and patiently. Now, if it's not comfortable for you to bring your attention back to your breathing, then just choose another part of your body that you're going to bring your attention back to. When we bring our attention back, it's like, in mindfulness terms, it's often termed as using the breath or the body as an anchor, anchoring your attention in the body. So it could be your lower back, your feet, your belly, or your breath, whatever's comfortable for you. And then taking your attention to your back. Now the back also moves as we breathe, although those movements are quite subtle. It's almost like an echo of the movements that go on in the front of the body. So if you were sitting with your back supported, perhaps by the back of a chair, you might notice how the feeling of contact with that support changes as you breathe in and then as you breathe out again. So just stay in with the movements in your back for a little while. And how about your shoulders? Can you notice any movements there? And then broadening out your awareness so that you're aware of the whole of your torso, moving gently as you breathe. As you breathe in, and then as you breathe out again. And then inviting you to take your awareness to the place where you feel the air first entering your body. So if you're breathing through your nose, that'll be the tip of your nose or your upper lip or inside the nostrils. If you're breathing through your mouth, that'll be the lips, the tongue or the roof of your mouth. Now these sensations are quite subtle and you might not feel them at first, but if you continue to pay attention to them, you'll begin to notice them. Just allowing your attention to be light and subtle, just like a butterfly resting on a flower. Just following your breath in and then all the way back out again. And if you notice your attention wandering at any time, just notice that your attention has wandered and then just gently guide your attention back to your breathing or any other part of your body that you're using as an anchor. And then taking your attention to your chest area and just becoming aware of the movements in the chest as you breathe in and then as you breathe back out again. So becoming aware of the lungs inflating on your in-breath and deflating on your out-breath. What does that feel like? What are the actual felt sensations of breathing? Sometimes our breath is likened to the waves on a beach, where the tide comes in and then flows back out again. Coming in and then flowing back out again. And then taking your attention inside the body, in other places, and just becoming aware of all of the movements going on inside our body. Those movements that we're often unaware of, and just getting a sense of how our body is constantly moving. So taking your attention to the diaphragm as the large muscle just below the rib cage that stretches from one side of the body to the other. It starts moving from our first breath and is constantly moving even when we're not aware of it. Becoming aware of the blood constantly flowing through the body and all of the movements of our cardiac and respiratory systems. The work that our digestion does, our digestive system is constantly moving, digesting our food, getting rid of waste. Our nervous system's constantly ebbing and flowing. We can move between the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, and then by bringing our attention to the present moment, regulating our breathing, we can change that and bring our attention into the parasympathetic nervous system. So our nervous system is always moving, going between one and the other. And our breath is constantly moving. So then broadening your awareness once again to include the whole of your body. And just an invitation now just to let go of all the effort that you're making to notice your breathing. And we're just going to sit here for a minute or two and just allow yourself just to be with your breathing. So just allowing the breath to come into the body and then flow back out again. Allowing it to come into the body and then flow back out again. Noticing if there's a temptation to hold on to it or to push it away, and seeing if you can just let that go. So almost being an observer of the breath. So seeing if you can look down on the breath. Just watch it rising and then falling away again. Then bringing your attention back into the room, noticing sounds that are inside you. Opening your eyes when you're ready. And just allowing yourself to move, perhaps moving the shoulders, circling the neck, or any other way that feels good for you. And as you go about into the rest of your day, seeing if you can just retain some of that awareness of your breath as you go about your day, and perhaps checking in with your breathing from time to time, noticing if you've started to hold your breath or resist it in any way. And then going back to the worksheet in your book and just writing down what you noticed when you did the mindfulness of breathing. Okay, we're going to have a little look now at our perceptual and our conceptual modes of mind. This is based on a model by Mark Williams. If anybody's read the book Finding Peace in a Frantic World, this is taken from there. So you'll see that we've got two triangles there, and when we're stressed and we're unhappy or we're in difficulties, we tend to operate at the top of those two triangles. And then our awareness is mainly in the conceptual mode. So if we look at the right-hand side, when our awareness is in the conceptual mode, we are labelling, we're elaborating on things, we're analysing, we're judging, goal setting, planning, comparing, remembering, problem solving, even self-reflecting and daydreaming is the conceptual mode of mind, or the doing mode of mind. And there's a lot of thinking going on. And when we're in the conceptual mode, we're trying to fix the problem. So we have very little perceptual awareness. And perceptual awareness is where we have environmental input. So it's our direct and felt experience. So we're seeing, we're hearing, we're tasting, we're feeling, and we're smelling. So when we are at the top of these two triangles, as you can see, the large part is in the conceptual triangle, and only very tiny bit, or very little, if anything, in the perceptual awareness with our environmental and direct input. So we're very much caught up in trying to fix the problem. We're caught up in thinking. And then as we take our attention into our direct and felt experience, so look, and often these in grounding practices, you'll be encouraged to, what can you see, what can you hear, what can you taste, what can you feel, what can you smell. And the minute you do that, the minute you take your attention into your direct and felt experience in that present moment, as you can see, you start to come down those two triangles, and you're starting to be, and there's a little bit less thinking going on. And when there's a bit less thinking going on, there's less stress. So this relates back to our primary and secondary experience from last week, where we have a primary experience and then we add on lots of layers. And if you look at these are all the layers that we added on in this, the thoughts, the judgments, and we add all of those layers on. So it relates to that. So we mentioned last week that mindfulness is a way of reducing those layers. And the way that we do that is by taking our attention to our direct and our felt experience. So in the mindfulness of breathing meditation, you were experiencing your breathing as it happened in that present moment. Our meditation practice is one way of taking our attention into the present moment, grounding ourselves, taking our attention to what we can see, what we can hear, listening to sounds, mindful eating, things that we can touch, smelling, or using all of our senses. They are ways of taking our attention into the present moment. And the more we do that, the less stress we have, the less we are caught up in the busyness of our minds. And as we do more and more of that, we end up then with the triangles are reversed. So you end up then being more of your attention in the being and less of your attention in the doing modes of mind. So a little bit of the thinking and a lot more in the being modes. And this is the parasympathetic nervous system, whereas the thinking tends to be in the sympathetic nervous system. So this is how taking our attention to our direct and felt experience can help us to escape the stress trap. And the idea is that we're able to go up and down these two triangles, and it's not to say that one is better than the other, because sometimes we need to think, don't we? If we look at all those reasons for thinking, goal setting, planning, we wouldn't get anything done, would we? So there are times when we need to be at the top of the triangle, and we need to be doing the doing mode. We need to be thinking and planning, and times when we need to be problem solving. But it's when we get caught up there and we find ourselves stuck there and overthinking, then that's when it can become a problem, and that's when we can become really, really stressed. And it's about balancing the both. Now, that isn't to say that we don't think when we're in the being mode. We can be doing meditation. We can, we're not pushing our thoughts away. We do think when we're doing a meditation, but we're doing a combination of both. And if we approach it from a being mode, if we allow those thoughts to arise and we notice the thoughts, we can, and this is what we will do in the next session, we can learn to work with those thoughts, because sometimes there are creative thoughts that emerge during meditation that we want to be aware of. It's more about if you find yourself feeling like really, really stressed and you find yourself really caught up in this overthinking, that's how we can sort of flip from the conceptual mode of mind into the perceptual mode of mind. Now, if you want to read a little bit more about this, this goes into a bit more depth in your workbook. So you can go back to your workbook and read a little bit more about this, and we'll be referring to this quite a lot throughout the 8 weeks of the course. So the thinking behind this is when we're able to go up and down the two triangles, we've escaped the stress trap. You have the skills then to be able to move up and down the diagram, and it's our mindfulness practice that helps us to move up and down the diagram by paying attention to our direct perceptions, our sight, our sounds, and our physical sensations. So we're not intentionally trying to think less. Just by paying attention to our perceptions, that's enough, because our minds can't hold all of the information of our perception and think at the same time. So if we go back to being and doing is at the top of the two triangles, and being is down the bottom of the triangles. So the doing is the conceptual mode of mind, and the being is the perceptual mode of mind, and that's where they tie in with each other. Okay, so each week there are some mindfulness practices to do as your home practice, because this is about, if you just do these videos, you will learn a lot, but we want this going into your day-to-day lives. So being mindful in your day-to-day lives. So it is about then taking them away, and what you've learned each week, taking that away. And so I wouldn't recommend skipping through these videos. Do them week by week so that it enables you to embed what you've learned that week and then come back and do this a week later. So each week there's a mindfulness in action activity. So this week I'm just encouraging you to do a few things a little bit more slowly than you usually do. So slowing down a little bit. And then your practice is body scan, 10 minutes once a day. Now, lots of people find the body scan helpful to do before they go to bed. It helps them with sleeping. But it is about finding what works for you, and then doing the mindfulness of breathing 10 minutes once a day as well. And just doing these, sometimes life does get in the way. So if you do find that one day you're just not able to fit these in, then just pick back up with it the following day, because it's so tempting then just to kind of like leave it all go, isn't it? So find what works for you. Personally, I do the mindfulness of breathing in the morning and then the body scan in the evening. But it is finding what works for you. Play around with this and see what actually is best for you. And then a little bit of reading, perhaps reading back over anything perhaps in this week that perhaps you want to know a little bit more about, or perhaps didn't quite sort of understand. And if you do have any questions, feel free to drop me an email, reach out. Don't just sit there thinking, I really don't get this. And then reading over week 3 of the Mindfulness for Stress workbook as well in preparation for the next session.